Okay, I think most of our guests are already here now. Maybe give us a few more minutes so that everyone can join the show together. So let's see how many participants we have now. We've got over 20 participants so far. Okay, so can you guys hear what I'm saying? Maybe if you can hear me clearly, just type in number 1. Okay, I can see our guests are responding now. Okay, clear. Okay, all right. So we will start in 1 minute. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Wow, got a lot of participants coming from both Cambodia and Singapore as well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay, so I think we still have guests coming in. So everyone, please kindly wait. Okay. Okay, I think we can start now. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Pointer Podcast EP2. My name is 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐅𝐮𝐭𝐿. I'm the CEO of Pointer Property. So it's a very great honor to have one of our great speaker from Singapore to join us today. Sorry, there are some echoes from participants. So excuse me for those who are joining in, please kindly mute your mic. Thank you. All right, so before we start the talk show, let me just briefly give you a little bit background about Pointer. So Pointer is a tech-enabled real estate agency which pioneered in the application of information technology in consultation with together with financial and legal consultation to make property transaction safe, convenient, and efficient. So Pointer, we also established with a mission to transform life of our agents to become more professional and ethical in the real estate business. At Pointer, we train, we support, and mentor our agents to ensure that they can be productive. At Pointer, we believe that we can only be successful when our agents are successful. And at Pointer, we believe in working as a team and working towards a common vision of helping our customer find the right home. So these are the mission that we are in this business. We are not just in real estate business just to make commission, but also to help advise and give advice and give insights to our customer and agents so that they can make the right decision when they purchase a property. So the talk show, our main objective today is not just to sell you any property or ask you to invest in anything, but we rather want to share you experience and insights to help you prevent from making wrong decision in property investment. Okay, so I think buying and investing in real estate is one of the biggest life decisions, especially during this pandemic. Obviously, COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of social and economic impacts to the world as well as to Cambodia. So real estate is one of the industries that has been impacted as well. But with new technology and innovation, I still believe that the future of real estate in Cambodia is still promising with many more things to come. Today, it is my great honor to discuss on the topic, the future of real estate, with an internationally recognized property consultant and prolific author, Mr. 𝐶 So before passing to him, let me share a little bit background about Mr. 𝐶 So 𝐶 and I met since 2014 when I was operating Century 21 office, and he was the CEO of Century 21 Singapore. So 𝐶 has been traveling to Cambodia on and off for the last 10 years, and he has been involved in a lot of real estate developments projects, and as well as bringing investors to come and invest in Cambodia. 𝐶 has also published several books. His latest book, as you can see here, The Future of Real Estate, is currently the best-selling books across many bookstores in Singapore. So the book contains a lot of useful tips and insights toward the future of real estate, which are quite intriguing. Today, we are very fortunate to have him joining our discussion and sharing his insights on the topic, the future of real estate. So without further ado, please join me together and welcome Mr. 𝐶 So, 𝐶
Yes, thank you everybody for taking
Great
time
to have
off.
you here today. Can you guys hear what 𝐶 say?
Yes,
Yes,
thank you
yes.
everybody for taking time off on a Saturday afternoon to listen to Chai and me. Chai wanted me to introduce a little bit more about myself, as well as explain why I wrote this book. I have been teaching at the university as a part-time lecturer since 2016. And along the way, I have been also researching, and I realized that the technology is changing very fast from many different directions. And as a property agent, I am also recommending properties to investors. I recommend properties to buyers, and sometimes I work with developers and architects when we discuss what sort of properties to design and develop for consumers as well as for investors, for users. And when we see so much new technologies coming in, changing our lifestyle, we have to keep investing in making real estate relevant to the users. So in fact, this book was already planned to be written in 2017. And there were so many different technologies that were moving fast. For example, robotics is getting very advanced now. You can have robots that can run faster than humans, that can do all sorts of tricks, robots that can do gymnastics, play table tennis. And then you have education technology. For example, today we are having a big meeting and none of us need to leave our homes, and this impacts the universities, it impacts even the primary schools. You can do teaching from home, for example. And then there's impact on transport technology with the new drones and new driverless vehicles. So when we see so many different types of technologies coming together, all these technologies will directly or indirectly affect our real estate. So since 2017 that I had the draft of the book, then I continued with the research. It looks like the situation is moving faster and faster because the technology boom is happening in many different parts of the world and happening at the same time. So finally, during COVID, last year when we were locked down at home, you realize that the adoption of technology became very fast. We were slowly adopting the use of Zoom for teaching in the university in Singapore. But because of COVID, we were forced to immediately adopt Zoom. Before that, we were also on different types of applications like WebEx, like Blackboards, type of education platforms. But all of a sudden, we are forced to make things move much faster. And therefore, during the sort of semi-lockdown in Singapore, I decided to quickly proceed to write the book to capture all this thinking about how technology change, as well as then COVID is forcing us to adopt new technology, and this technology, how will it impact real estate design in future? Meaning that actually some of today's real estate may become irrelevant. One clear example now we are seeing is e-commerce has already taken away a lot of the requirement for retail shops. So that's just one small example, but if you look at the overall picture, there will be a lot more different types of impact on various categories. So later on, Chai and I will have a discussion about that for you.
Okay, so thank you, Zi-Yong, for your introduction. And I believe the book has got very good insights, and maybe later we can have a link for you to download the book to understand more. So like you said, COVID-19 and technology has made a lot of impacts on how real estate is functioning. So obviously, as you can see, COVID has made e-commerce and delivery business grow very fast. However, it has also caused substantial impacts to the retail sector, specifically leaving a lot of shopping mall and retail space vacant. So Zi-Yong, in your opinion, what will be the future of retail industry and retail space?
I think a pure shopping center retail space where you buy, you go there to buy clothes, you go there to buy shoes, those type of retail space will definitely have to consolidate and shrink. Because today it is quite easy to buy things online and then get it delivered to you. In the supermarkets, you will have heavy things, for example, buying 5 kilograms of rice, or maybe you want to buy a carton of soft drinks or detergent that is heavy to carry. Let's just go onto the mobile phone, put in the orders, and then tomorrow it arrives at home. So for supermarkets, for example, you will probably go there only for your fresh vegetables, fresh meat, or something that you need urgently, which means that for the supermarket operator, he can reduce his rental by renting a smaller space from the landlord, or he would have to change the way the supermarket is laid out. Overall, retail space should be only catering mainly to retail services, such as if you need a hairdressing salon quickly because tonight you're attending your cousin's wedding dinner, go do your hair. Maybe you are going to the neighboring shop house. You might be going to Aeon Mall and looking for somebody to provide that services. People who are maybe providing services in terms of nail spa, restaurant, which is food services. Those types of services would still remain in a retail mall. But then you see that the retail mall themselves need to change, because 3 years ago, you do not have so many people on the app buying food, and then somebody from the delivery company goes to, in Singapore's case, it is Grab Food or Deliveroo or Food Panda, where they are going into the shopping mall after they park the motorbike, and then they are collecting the food, and then they run out to the motorbike again, they drive off and they deliver the food. Today's shopping malls need to be redesigned for the increased volume of the food pickup and delivery service. So right now our malls are mainly efficient in design for large delivery, for example, the supermarket needs to be restocked almost every day. Every day there'll be new deliveries of vegetables, eggs, fish, meat. So there is efficient design in terms of waste management for the shopping mall. But nobody has designed a shopping mall that is convenient for food delivery yet. So I think we will have to move that way very quickly. And this is another small example of how technology is impacting real estate and forcing us to have to renovate our existing real estate.
Right. So seems like that current shopping mall and retail store probably need to think about where they can design the space for the pickup guys, right? Because now, as I can see, even there are some very popular shop nearby my house. You can see a lot of motorbikes parking on the street, not very order and causing a lot of traffic. So I think future shopping mall or current shopping mall should probably think about how to redesign a pickup space.
Other than the traffic jam, which may be just slowing down your delivery and slowing down some other people who needs to drive past, right? There is also the safety of the food delivery workers. And in case of bad weather, their motorbikes sometimes are parked in the open areas, and then it affects your food as well. They may be carrying your food and then they are getting into the rain, right?
Right.
So the shopping mall need to renovate themselves to reallocate the space. The shopping malls themselves, if they are building a new wing, they can build a new wing where they design better pickup services for all the restaurant tenants.
Right. Okay. So, but now that we are still in uncertain situation, but if let's say COVID is gone, people now are used to ordering food online or using delivery service. Do you think people still continue to use the apps instead of going to the physical store?
Of course, once the lockdown is over, some people will start to return back to the stores. But in the case of Singapore, even though we are not having a tight lockdown, but in the stalls now we have got reduced seating because we want everybody to sit further apart. So some of the more popular coffee shops and restaurants, in fact, they are full house for seating.
Right.
And so if you want to order food from a more popular shop, you probably wouldn't mind using your app to order the food, because by the time you walk down to the shop, maybe you see that there's a short queue outside, so you've got to wait to get in to sit down.
Right.
And then once everybody becomes a habit to order the food, we will have more people going online to order. If you are pleased with the quality of the food when it arrives at your home, you would start to order, yes. But when the lockdown is over, yes, you will reduce some of the online ordering, for sure.
Right. Okay, so that could be the future of retail space. People might still be ordering food online, but there are some certain daily necessity that we still need to go for shopping. Maybe sometime if you want to have a family gathering, you probably still want to go out shopping, watching movie. Of course, you can watch Netflix or what at home, but for entertainment purpose, probably you still need to go out to the mall, right?
Of course, if you have got entertainment, if you have got a lot more services in the mall, you want to have a gathering of your secondary school mates, you have got not enough space at home, or you would still gather at a mall, and then maybe after that followed by a meal in the restaurant inside the mall.
Okay, I think that's could be the future. So let's move on to the commercial sector in real estate. So as we all have experienced, COVID has caused us not to come to the office, meaning we have to work from home for some sort. And now that in Phnom Penh specifically, we just lifted the lockdown a few days ago. So everybody start coming back to the office. But there's still some uncertainty about the future of office space. So in your opinion, how will COVID-19 change the demand for office space?
In Singapore, where we have got a CBD, and then we have got a few locations where we have got high density office buildings. So other than CBD, we have got the Paya Lebar, we have got the fringe of CBD, we have got Woodlands and Jurong, where we have developed large office clusters. The big companies have in the last year, because of allowing the workers to work from home, many of the big companies have already announced that they will have maybe 20% up to 50% of people permanently working from home. Having 20 or 50% doesn't mean that if they have 1,000 workers, that 200 workers are working from home and 800 workers work in the office. It is a mix and match. Some workers may be working 3 days a week. Some workers may be only working half day in the office. Some workers maybe they come in 1 week and they stay at home the next week while they are working. So it is a sort of a mix and match depending on the job function. And these are mainly the bigger office users, especially the banks. The banks take up significant amount of between 30 to 40% of the top grade A office buildings in Singapore. So if the large space users such as the banks are starting to reduce their footprint, reduce the demand on office space, in fact, then we might see a little bit more vacancies in high quality office space. And the banks want to do this for two reasons. First reason, of course, is to save a little bit of money on the profit and loss. If they can reduce the space from, let's say, if they have 1,000 workers, usually they take 100,000 square feet of space. If they can reduce by 20,000 square feet of space, they reduce a lot of the rentals that they pay. So that's one reason, saving money for the company. Second reason is when COVID initially hit Singapore, and then some banks in Singapore had a few office workers who got the virus, they had to quickly shut down the entire floor of the office space for the cleaning, and then they had to shut the floor for maybe 2 to 3 days to make sure that they disinfected them. And so there was a stoppage of the business. And because the business is disrupted due to 1 or 2 colleagues getting the virus, it is actually a very inconvenient situation. They lose revenue, or maybe they have to incur a lot of extra costs. So over the last year now, we have already had enough practice learning from how to adapt to this situation. And therefore now the banks see that by reducing office space and by allowing different individuals to work from home on different days, in fact, that flexibility now makes the bank, they allow the bank to continue operating without having 100% of people back in the office. And that is a strategic decision, because it keeps the bank a lot more resilient to business disruption. And therefore, so if we apply this example to law firms, to professional services firms, architectural firms, accounting firms, you see that actually overall, the reduction of space can be a lot. And so in my book, I just estimated that in Singapore, if only net 10% of office space is given up by the existing users, by giving up 10% of office space, that is equal to 7 million square feet of office space. And that 7 million square feet of office space may be equal to 20 Phnom Penh towers of office space.
Wow. No, 20 Phnom Penh towers office space. That is reduced, right, due to COVID-19.
Due to large companies allowing parts of their staff to work from home.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, that is interesting. So in Cambodia, from what I can see, instead of cutting down the space, they are rather looking to downgrade their office. Maybe instead of renting $20 per square meter space, they're looking for something between $15 or $16 per square meter. So that basically says that demand is still there, but probably they're looking for something at a reduced cost.
Okay, two directions. Some are looking at reduced costs, and so they may reduce the space to reduce costs, or they may be taking the opportunity to bargain with the landlord, because now the demand is still not so strong because of the virus that is still going around. But there are also companies that instead of the whole company taking 1,000 square meter of space, maybe they now decide that for the business to be more resilient to any more disruption, that they may take a smaller space elsewhere. So maybe your headquarters, you can reduce to 800 square meters. From 1,000, you reduce to 800 square meters. But then you take another smaller office so that you split the team up, so that in case the virus comes back and it is in one of your office, some of the workers can still do work from the other office.
Okay. So that's more like setting up a satellite office to sort of protect the risk. Yeah.
Yes, it is sort of like a backup, a safety, a second layer of redundancy.
I see.
Especially if your office has got, for example, you are IT services company and you need to maintain systems to be up 24 hours. You cannot afford that to have your own office having a shutdown because somebody has got the virus.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So this is from the perspective of a consumer, but from a perspective of a landlord or a developer, what do you think are the safety procedures that should be in place to attract the tenants during this COVID pandemic?
I think for the landlord as well as for us property agents, we should quickly engage with our tenants and our clients to ask them what do they think about their business operation needs. Your business operation needs, if it includes a backup office, can the landlord offer a smaller space in a secondary location as the backup, so that the landlord can still offer the same tenant now two different locations. Secondly, many landlords now have to upgrade some of their old systems because all of us are doing so much more online meetings. So you need to upgrade your bandwidth, upgrade your internet trunking. Then some of the landlords in the same building, instead of leasing out all the floors on long-term lease, maybe the landlord takes 20% of the floors, and the landlord themselves, they create a co-working space. So the landlords create a co-working space so that some of the tenants who want the flexibility, they rent one floor, but they also rent a small part of the co-working space where it is shared with everybody else. So these are some of the things that have started to happen in the last I think ever since last year July, when Singapore started to become started to relax on the movement restrictions, some of the landlords announced that they are converting some of the spaces to become flexible working spaces. So we are able to then offer the tenants flexibility to help them with managing their business operations.
Okay. So basically, we need to understand our tenants' requirement, how they are going to operate their business. Right?
Yes. So maybe in future, it wouldn't be so much like I am the landlord and you are the tenant, so you are inside my building. It could be more like a partnership model where the landlord really needs to understand the business operations of their tenants well.
So they can adjust the space according to the operations of the tenant.
Correct.
All right. I think that's some part of the commercial sector that we want to touch on. Let's move on to residential sector. So COVID-19 has upset the real estate fundamentals by changing how we lead our life, how we interact socially. So that will impact how we live as well. Then, from your opinion, what changes do we expect to see in the demands of residential properties?
On the residential property side, I think the most obvious one would be if you are staying in a house, you need to quickly get your bandwidth to increase, so you may need to pull an extra line. If you are staying in cluster gated community, then maybe together with all your neighbors, you have got to pay to upgrade the connectivity. In a condominium, of course, you have to get together with the management committee to upgrade the bandwidth. But when in the middle of our lockdown last year, I was at home, my wife, and then my 2 children were at home, and my children were in senior high school and in university. And 4 of us were at home at the same time. My children were attending lectures, different lecture, different school. And then my wife and I also were working, and I'm on my webinar and she is trying to do her office work from home, right? So in fact, luckily we have 3 people in the bedroom working from the bedroom, and then 1 person working from the living room. But if we had a smaller unit, or if we had more family members, then in fact this arrangement would not be convenient, especially because my children, on some days they have to be online doing the examination or the test or assessment from school. And those are important. Or maybe you have got an online presentation for a very big deal that you are making a pitch to an important customer. So homes and the number of bedrooms in the home, and maybe within the home, do you want to design a smaller room that has got sort of like a business center, an office type of room in your home that is also soundproof? So for the developers of residential properties, this may be some of the things that they can consider. Then if you are living in a landed property, the delivery problem is not so big. But if you are living in a condominium, the same problem that is happening in the retail malls, where the food delivery guys or the guy who is from the supermarket sending your detergent and sending your 24 cans of Coca-Cola to you. The pickup point and the drop-off when they come to your condominium, these are designs that are not available in our condominiums today. So where would the food delivery guy deliver to? And so when we start to design new condominiums, all this thinking has to be put in place so that the condominium can accept our new trend of our new lifestyle.
Okay, so basically we need a stronger internet bandwidth, as well as a place where we can pick up our food more conveniently in the place that we stay, right?
Yeah. And probably for new designs, design in an extra bedroom that can be used as an office space, and the soundproofing of the rooms should be improved so that if your family has got 4 or 5 members, you can have them going to school online as well as working from home online at the same time.
Right, right. So I believe these will be some of the features that buyers should be looking for when they are looking for their next home or for any residential properties. So,
Correct. So, for example, this picture that you see on the screen right now,
mhm,
if he is attending a webinar on his Mac, and then he has to play even if he's on his headphone, but then somebody else in the home who is maybe watching Netflix or who is eating lunch or cooking might disturb him with the sound, right?
right.
Yeah, so this open concept, which was very popular in the last 20 years, maybe now the open concept is not so convenient anymore.
Mm. So people would rather want a allocated room, a dedicated room for their own private office, mostly for call or for presentation, right?
Yes, so it depends on what sort of work. So for me now, during the day I do work, but I'm also attending class, and some days I'm also teaching class. And so when I'm the teacher, of course, I cannot have a noisy background as well.
I see. Okay. So yeah, again, that these are some of the features that buyers should look for in their home post COVID-19. So I think aside from having that features designed into the residential properties, what else do you think are the factors that will affect the buyer's behavior when they choose residential property?
Okay, so when you put this trend together, firstly, there is a little bit more of work from home. There's a little bit more of study from home. In fact, you do not really need to live in BKK1, even if your job is in BKK1, right?
Right.
Yeah, because maybe your office has flexible working and you only need to come into office 3 times a week for your division level meeting. And the rest of the time, maybe you can be in TK in a coffee shop working from there. So meaning that people may be starting to look for slightly bigger size houses or slightly bigger size apartments in relatively lower cost locations.
I see.
And then the high-end luxury remains maybe more for investment property, maybe for expatriates who are coming into Phnom Penh and they are not so familiar with the city. And so they are in a more luxurious condominium apartment in the most prime BKK1 district.
So from what you are saying, it seems like we need bigger space because now since we need to work from home, we just done before maybe you can just rent a studio or a small 1 bedroom, but probably now because there's a demand for working from home, I guess we probably need more bigger space to accommodate that needs, right?
Yes.
So and like you said, people will probably don't mind traveling a little bit further out of the city because they don't have to come to the office every day like before.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. So
maybe
these are some of.
Maybe you can move nearer to your children's school. And some of the international school, like Phnom Penh International School near the village, right? So instead of staying in the middle of the city where it's expensive, you can get a bigger place near to the international school so that your children is more convenient. In the past, you are the one traveling a lot, but you are staying in the middle of the city, but your children have to travel to the international school. Now you stay near the international school with a bigger piece of real estate.
Right.
And then you're traveling in, your children travel much less, and then you are only traveling into town maybe 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. I think that could be the trend. Probably people will prefer to travel further out to get a bigger space and in an open air location, open air type of property, right? Okay, I think if our audience has got any questions, you can keep that for now. We will have a question and answer session later on. So let me just move on a little bit more to industrial sector. So since you're aware that e-commerce delivery are a business that are striving, and I believe they will require demand for storage space as well. So that will mean demand for warehouse should increase as well as data center. That will turn attention to some of the developers to look at investing in probably industrial property or warehouse. 𝐶𝐞, in your opinion, how do you foresee the future of industrial property?
The manufacturing side of industrial property for Cambodia, you are still very strong with garments, shoes, plastics products, for example. That the manufacturing side, the demand should continue to remain steady, and because manufacturing, the workers would still have to go in unless the factory owner starts to invest in robotics. And robots, they do not fall sick from the pandemic, so some of the factory owners might start to invest in higher technology. But for warehousing, data centers, those are clearly winners in the COVID times because technology has improved a lot. For example, now people are uploading and downloading on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, a lot of short videos or pictures, photographs, whatever they see on the street, they take a photograph or they take a short video and then they upload it. And that's why the demand for data center usage goes up a lot. And of course, electricity and carbon. In the case of warehouses, the improvements in technology in terms of logistics, in terms of scheduling the flow of the products going in and out of a warehouse and a logistics and distribution center, the software, as well as the ability to get the delivery guys, the guys driving the truck or on the motorcycle, that software is now integrated into their hands as well. So it is now no more large logistics companies like DHL or UPS that has the capability of running sophisticated logistics businesses. It is smaller size companies can also get in and provide more local type of logistics and distribution services to local manufacturers. And one of the example could be a food factory having a lot of food delivery guys coming in to take away food for delivering. So meaning you can start the F&B business now by getting an industrial space and then tying in with the logistics companies to do your food distribution. You don't need to have a restaurant space. So you can have an industrial size type of kitchen. Next to your industrial kitchen, somebody is stocking up the food ingredients, the flavoring, the sauces, next to you another guy who is doing the waste management. And so logistics, factories, industrial, because of the COVID, also has been forced to change. But in the next few years, because it is quite fast for anybody who wants to construct the warehouse space, the photograph that you are seeing on the right-hand side, this type of low technology warehouse space is very fast to construct. Within 12 months, if the owner has the land, within 12 months, he can already build a simple logistics center like that. But we should, if we are advising our clients, we should in fact encourage them not to just build a simple storage warehouse. They should include software, they should include technology, they should include the latest systems in terms of, for example, fire prevention, safety management. They can include tracking of and sensors to track all the goods that come in and track the goods that move out. So it becomes a stock management system. And that's where you can upgrade the warehouse to be much higher value, because the goods that are going in and the goods that are going out are all tracked properly.
Okay, so that is interesting concept, which I heard people in food delivery business. They are also planning to use some of the warehouse space to probably convert it into what we call a cloud kitchen, where you can just cook from there and you deliver it to anywhere.
Correct. So, for example, the food catering companies, the guys who are doing very large scale production of food, for example, in the past, they may be supplying to the hotels, or they may be supplying food that is for the factory, and the factory has 3,000 workers. You cook it from the cloud kitchen and you're supplying 3,000 lunches. You supply 3,000 tea breaks every day.
Okay, so that's interesting for industrial. So I think we cover all the 4 sectors in real estate already: residential, commercial, retail, and industrial. So let me move on to the next part that we want to discuss today. Because when we talk about future of real estate, we always discuss about technology. Technology, when we hear technology, we always hear the word AI, blockchain, VR, AR. So these are the terms that describe what we call prop tech. So Sriong, what does prop tech mean to you?
Prop tech has got many layers of meaning. Prop tech for the consumers could be like what you see on the photograph here. It could be the platform where you interact with between sellers, agents, and buyers. So that is the first stage of prop tech. So it's like an information resource. You go to the website, you look for what is available to buy. You look for what is available for rental. You look at the prices. You look for information, and then you can directly connect with somebody, whether he's the seller or he's the property agent, right? So that to the consumer at this moment is prop tech. But prop tech at the B2B level, for the landlords and the developers, prop tech can be construction technology. Prop tech can include the maintenance of buildings. Now we have got drones that are flying up and down the building to inspect the outside of the building for cracks, for example.
Okay.
And then, of course, at the government level, there is also prop tech. If the government has got a lot of information about the traffic flow, the government can use the information, for example, about electricity demand in different parts of the city during 7 days a week and during every month. What sort of demand for energy, what sort of demand for traffic. The government can use a lot of this technology to improve the design and the infrastructure of the whole city. So
Right.
PropTech is happening again partly due to COVID. COVID has made us work faster to improve all these things. And so we see more and more technology being adopted now for
Right.
city planning, for building management, property management type of applications, construction management to also save costs and also try to help construct faster. And then at the consumer level, we have got applications like what you are showing now. In Japan, we have also seen applications where maybe you have a SME, he owns his shop house, he also, of course, he owns his own home, and then maybe he has another 2 or 3 investment properties. There are applications that will help him track his tenants as well as whether the tenants have paid the money, whether he is paying the property management fees, whether maybe it is now 6 months from the last time the aircon servicing is done. So all these reminders that will allow him as a small landlord, he owns 3 or 4 properties, but it can send him reminders and help him to make payments and get contact with his tenants and his property agents. So
Right.
a lot of it is happening at the same time as we speak.
Right. So actually,
Sure.
yeah.
When you mentioned blockchain, and blockchain is going to be an interesting method to help consumers to buy smaller parts of real estate now.
Right.
In the past, if you wanted to buy maybe a shop house in Phnom Penh, 1 million US dollars, 2 million US dollars, you need to save up quite a long time to get the money, then you buy the shop house. If you have blockchain now, you can use a company to buy the shop house, and then the company buys the shop house at $2 million, but then it distributes 1 million blocks. And each block costs $2 US.
Right.
And using the blockchain technology now, the younger person may say that I want to buy $2,000 worth of blockchain in this shop house that is $2 million. So he will be getting 1,000 blocks because each block is worth $2 US. So blockchain now is happening at the speed where this type of concept has been implemented. One company that 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and I have been helping to work on is from Korea, Korea. They securitized and they made into blockchain a small building of 10 million US dollars in Gangnam in Seoul. And they broke it down into $5 per block. So that would be interesting. But of course, it depends on the government law, whether such crypto type of investments would be allowed or not.
Right. So, yeah, according to what you say, PropTech is a big umbrella which covers a lot of sector in real estate, starting from construction to sale of the property as well as to the maintenance of the property. So it basically...
That is one thing you can consider. I mean, investors do not need to just consider investing in the real estate. Investors can consider investing into the technology.
Right. So, yeah, basically, the goal of technology in property is to increase the efficiency in each sector that they are in. So,
Correct.
For example, construction is trying to get it more efficient, try to control and organize the information so that the building can construct according to the schedule. For sales and marketing, we want to have a way of transmit the information, keep it organized for the consumers so that they can search and find easily. And lastly, you mentioned about blockchain where we can buy property based on blocks, right? Based on small items which we divided from the property. I think this is something going to be exciting for the future, especially for young people, since we can buy according to how much we can afford. But again, that depends on the regulation of the government as well.
Yeah.
So since that technology has been evolving from time to time, and I mean, from my experience when I was starting my real estate career, every time that people want to buy property, they will go around the street looking for the sign that is for sale or for rent, and trying to call every landlord, try to get all the details of information of each property, which could be time consuming and tedious. So with the new technology, how will that impact the way that we buy and sell property, according to your opinion?
Okay, so I was first in Phnom Penh in 2007, and like you say, at that time there wasn't a platform in Phnom Penh where I can look at what is for sale and what is the cost of the property, or if I wanted to rent. At that time, budget of 300 to 500 US a month, I could rent a studio unit in BKK. And the problem then is, I am not sure whether this guy is overcharging me for his 500 US a month. And I am unable to compare because I've got to go to the different condominiums and knock on the door and then find out and then do my price comparison. But today, if I go and try to look for a property in Phnom Penh, it is much easier. And so the platform not only allows me to look for more information, some of the platforms will allow me to form an idea about what is the valuation of the properties in that neighborhood. So when you see that somebody is asking for 3,000 US per square meter, you think you want to know whether it is a reasonable asking price. From these platforms, you can make your comparison. Then you can come to a conclusion. Okay, in this neighborhood, 3,000 US per square meter, that is a good price, because the other guy is selling at 3,500 per square meter. Last month, somebody sold out 50 units at 4,000 per square meter, for example. So with these platforms now, the consumers' trust in the property market has also improved. In the past, even when you appoint the valuation company takes a few days to respond to you about whether the valuation is reasonable or not. So today, things have improved significantly because of this technology that we have. Of course, I'm talking mainly about residential properties and maybe office properties in the central parts of Phnom Penh. If you go slightly further outskirts and you are dealing with industrial properties, you are dealing with land. The land now is agriculture land, but you are thinking that maybe you can convert it into mixed use or residential plus factory land. Then I think maybe more technology needs to be developed, more software and more information needs to be aggregated before we can be confident about industrial and land values, factory values in the outskirts of Phnom Penh.
Okay, that is interesting, and that is how technology can change the way that we buy and sell property, with more information at the tips of your finger, right?
Yes, in fact, with this information, the banks, the valuers, and the government, they are all seeing this information as well. And so if the banks are convinced that the information quality is good, the banks are also more confident about lending you money to buy the factory, for example. Or maybe your factory, you have already fully paid up for your factory, and over the last 10 years, you grow your factory bigger, and now you want to borrow money from the bank because you want to buy another piece of land next to your factory. The bank, seeing this same information, they will be a lot more confident in providing the credit, and with the credit, then the business growth will happen.
Right. So yeah, information transparency, market transparency is very important in real estate, which is why at Pointer we also believe in providing accurate information to our customer to ensure that they can make the right decision. So that's why we are developing all sort of technology. Besides the consumer, as a real estate agent, I believe some of our audience here are real estate agents. So what technology should a property agent use to better serve their customers?
In fact, there are many tools available out there, but what we need to do to upgrade ourselves is to understand how these tools operate. You can say that this is a system for doing rental, this can be a system for property management, but first we need to also study, we need to attend classes to understand how does this property management tool actually work? Where is the data collected from? So the building management system, you are trying to save money on the monthly electricity cost, for example. How do you get the information? How do you analyze the information? And then after that, you provide advice to the landlord, or maybe you are working for the boss who owns the building. You can then provide him with advice on how to make the building energy management system a lot more efficient. We also need to learn how to analyze costs, because many of us, because we are in a salesman type of mentality, we are generally able to attract people to work with us to buy a property because we are in a sales mode. But we should not only be thinking about revenue and the opportunity to make a profit. We should be thinking about how to minimize cost. So what are the risks involved with the cost? You can buy a property that may be very attractively priced, but maybe the cost of maintenance is very high. And so the running cost then might reduce your profits significantly. So as property agents, we are not only having to keep up with some of these technology platforms, we should also try to learn the technology platform, what is it based on? So it means that the work is doubly tough for us, because first we have got to learn all these applications out there. Each application is based on what? Each application, how do they perform? And then we have to understand what goes into the application and the data that comes out. So 2 levels. Learn how to use the applications, learn what applications there are out there. Second is, each of these applications, how does it work? Yeah. Okay. So I think there's quite a lot of work for property agents to try to catch up. We have to run faster just to keep in the same spot.
Right. So I think the way that consumer is dealing with property is now, influenced by technology. So as a property agent, we should also keep up with the technology on what is going on and try to use the correct tools to ensure that we are serving our customer at the speed that they want. Because now, instead of, sometimes you don't have to bring the customer straight to the showroom because of COVID-19 or because of the lockdown. You can now just use your iPad with a VR. You can show the house. You can present information with details, with the level of details that can allow the buyers to make some sort of decision.
Yeah. In fact, many consumers are relatively advanced already in knowing how to use these applications. Right. And so we have to keep up at least with all the consumers, and then we have to try to be one step ahead of the consumers.
Right. So that's why at Pointer we believe in equipping our agents with the right tools, with the right technology, so that they can be more productive, be more efficient, and they can pass on that efficiency to their customer and save them time and money as well. So I think that covers part of our discussion on technology. We've been talking, I think, almost an hour already. I guess some of our audience probably have some questions at this point. So if you guys have any questions that you want to ask our speaker here, Mr. 𝐓𝐡𝐞, about any topic related to real estate or the future of real estate or technology, please, you can chat in or you can let us know. We'll turn the mic on and you can ask the question. Anyone? Have we got anyone asking? Okay, Lara.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Liang and Mr. 𝐒𝐡𝐞 for this session. I have a few questions. I already asked one earlier, but I would like to get some clarification on that. We started talking about retail and the impact of COVID and technology in retail businesses. I had the feeling, maybe I missed a bit. I had the feeling that the discussion was focused on shopping malls and like big area shops. I would like to know what is the impact or whether it will affect differently or not on smaller businesses. So not just thinking of big shopping malls, but how will this mean that we will have less small businesses because of COVID and technology? Will small businesses be surviving or find a way to survive because of technology? And if so, will they still be asking for or like demanding space for retail? So in short, my question would be how this situation of COVID and tech would affect differently or not smaller businesses versus the bigger businesses. And maybe a second question I would like to ask, if I'm allowed, would be, so we've been talking about how COVID now is affecting, so more people are asking or ordering online, and therefore we need to adapt to this situation, etc., or working from home. But I mean, it seems, or I hope, that at some point we will find a health solution, and likewise has happened with other illnesses before. There we found a cure. Now we're experimenting with some vaccines, and it seems it's working. So I believe at some point things will get back to normal in a way. Do you think that maybe the new normality, the so-called new normality, do you think that these impacts that we just commented today will remain even so, or like will this is of course at the much longer term, but will these be affecting us to that extent, in such as having less smaller offices, or willing to have less smaller offices if we get a cure for COVID? Sorry if it's too long.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much.
I understand your first question better now. In fact, when Singapore had the lockdown last year, and also because you know, Singapore is a big has a big tourism market, and our airport is very efficient, not just as an airport for Singaporeans going out or for visitors coming into Singapore. Our airport is very efficient in terms of the transit passengers. So each year we have, before COVID, we had about 19 million people visiting Singapore, but the airport itself was handling 50 million visitors. So there are many visitors who just fly through the airport. They don't get out to Singapore, for example. And so because of COVID, now our airport business is very, very small. The tourism sector, the airlines, aerospace companies, aerospace maintenance, the spare part business, many of them got hit and they don't have a job. But then suddenly, because of the availability of technology, we see that there are many people who are new, for example, home bakers. In the past, if you want to bake, you can bake very well. You may need to start to sell your cookies or sell your bread or sell your cakes. You need a shop front. But today, their shop front is Instagram, their shop front is Facebook. And when they lost, some of them lost their jobs, within 3 weeks, they are starting to bake because they already got their shop front on Facebook and their website and their Instagram ready. And so there were new businesses that started up at home, even without having to go to the shops. But of course, outside, we are now talking about your first question, which is about retail that is outside of the shopping mall. In terms of shop houses, actually, I see that the shop houses are, you see, the shop house mainly is ground floor is retail. And in Singapore, ground floor retail, but second floor and third floor, they are usually office space. And so office now, we are facing a situation of work from home. So there's reduction in the demand for the second and third floor of the shop house. And then because retail itself require people to come to the office, and so they buy something downstairs, or maybe they eat in the retail shop downstairs, and then they are working upstairs on that street. So in fact, the shop house themselves also have been impacted. I'm seeing that in Singapore now. I'm not so sure whether in Norodom Boulevard, the shop houses, how would they be impacted today. But I expect that probably the retail, the shopfront ones, let's say somebody who is selling clothes, somebody who is selling toys, maybe they have to start moving some of their businesses online. And then the upstairs units, which are offices, if the tenants start to reduce his space demand, then there may be some loss in business. So even the smaller size retail spaces, there could be some negative impact due to COVID and due to technology, e-commerce. Now, then your second question is asking about how long lasting this might be. And I think that yes, with the vaccine and then with a better understanding of the virus, we will be able to go back to something like 2019 where the world is a bit more normal. But there will still be the need by the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer of the company, will still want to save costs. So he will still try to encourage some of his people to work from home, for example. And for business continuity purposes, you want to make sure that your business doesn't get disrupted. You have to put in place a practice where you allow workers to be working from home sometime. So meaning overall, for 1,000 of your workers, on any day, maybe only 900 workers, assuming that now everyone got the vaccine and we are all healthy, no more virus problems, you will still be reducing your office needs so that some people can work from home, so that in case another emergency were to happen, your company is comfortable with working from anywhere. Maybe except for 2 or 3 guys who are handling very confidential documents. So for example, the person who is doing payroll, human resource record keeping, for example, that person, your company's policy doesn't allow him to work from home. But the other people who are dealing not with so much confidential stuff, your company operations will adjust itself so that they can work from home. So overall, yes, when the world goes back to normal, I think the demand for real estate might go back to 90% of normal, but it will not be back to 2019 normal, because now we are already getting used to having a discussion like that online. So it is the same for schools. Once the high school and the universities start getting used to teaching this way, you can in fact reduce the size of the school building, right? The international schools may be in a very expensive location. You can actually reduce the number of classrooms because some of the classes have already moved online. So this new technology together with COVID is going to force us to already make changes in our life and the way we work, so that in fact there will be some reduction in total demand, except for residential. Residential, the demand may be different. Not that there will be a reduction, because we still need a place to sleep. We still need a place to call home, right? But the demand for what type of residential space will change. Do you need to put in a small office bedroom in your home? Do you need 1 room per person at home? Because like my example, my children were attending school and attending their tests and exam online. At the same time, I'm at home trying to do my work online. So do you need 1 bedroom per person at home, so that you can all do school from home as well as work from home? So the demand on residential type will change, but I don't think the residential demand will shrink. But other segments such as hotels, office space, retail space, those should shrink.
Thank you very much. Understood.
Okay, thanks. Maybe I can add on a little bit on Lara's first question. So the impact on retail, especially in this point in time, where some of the small shops have been trying to convert themselves online. Like we see the presence of food delivery app like Food Panda, Nyam24 in Cambodia, and many other apps which are currently being used. Those retail space that used to have a small restaurant on the street are now also having their store online. Like everybody can now order from there, and the restaurant can also cut down some costs from not having to operate in full capacity. Just have someone to cook and packaging the food. So that can also save us cost and allow small businesses to sustain during this period of time. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for your question. Okay, we have another question here in the chat.
The question from the Pointer page: what is the prediction on trending for housing market in Cambodia? Actually, Cambodia, by looking at the population tree, so how many people in each age group, and usually the population tree, we draw them as an age band, right? By looking at the Cambodian population age band, Cambodia is still a very young population, and many people are around I think more than half of the people are less than 30 years old. So I would say that within the next 10 years, many Cambodians are actually creating new families, getting married, and then producing babies. So because of that trend, I think the demand for housing for 10 years in Cambodia, all the major cities, I think it should still be a solid growing trend. Phnom Penh, Siem Reap, Kampong Cham, another relatively big city maybe. And that is because of the demographic trend, the population tree, right? In Singapore, we are very fast becoming an aging population. There are 50% of the population is below about 45 years old. 50% of the population is above 45 years old. Different from Cambodia, which is 50% below 30 years old. And many are getting married, and after getting married, having baby. So they would need bigger residential units. In Singapore, because we are having more and more retirees, might choose to reduce the size of the property. And then our birth rate has been reducing. And so in my forecast in the book, which my university students work with me to do a spreadsheet to forecast, we think that in the year 2030, which is 9 years from now, the number of people dying in Singapore will be equal to the number of babies born in Singapore. Yeah. So meaning our population
net zero.
Net zero, yeah. So the demand on residential homes will be quite different. So if you read the book in chapters 2, I think I talk a lot about the aging demographics of Singapore. But it is Singapore, so not really relevant to the Phnom Penh and Cambodia residential demand.
Okay, so maybe I add a little bit more on the demand for residential. Like Mr. Sriong said, more than 50% of Cambodians are below 30 years old. As the age group where they are looking for, looking to get married, build up a family, buying a new home, and making baby. So this trend will not stop the demand of residential properties, but in a way, because of COVID, there will be some changes in, the type of properties that they want. So instead of looking for a small house, probably they were looking for a bigger units, even they have to travel a little bit far out of the city. So that I think answered the question, but the question is also asked about any government action to take on the unaffordability of the property. So
yes, this part I think we many people have discussed that Cambodia needs a lot of low-cost housing, affordable housing, right? And I think the MLM UPC, the Ministry of Land, they published a paper a few years ago saying that Cambodia as a whole needs another 1 million housing units because of the demographic trends, right? Because people are setting up families and getting married and having children. But the buildings, the residential buildings that have come up are mainly more middle and upper and in the luxury category, right? So yes, there seems to be a mismatch. But now that we are getting more and more comfortable with working from home, and we are able to, maybe your job is in central Phnom Penh, but maybe you are living in Kandal, maybe it is still workable because every week your boss only needs you to go into office 2 days. The other 3 days you are working from your home. So then the home in Kandal becomes the sort of affordable housing because it is much lower cost as compared to if you have to buy a home in the middle of Phnom Penh. So I think there will be some pressure that will be released where the younger people, especially if you are technology savvy and you can work from home with all sorts of different tools, maybe it will release a little bit of that pressure.
Right, right. So I guess because of the impact on COVID-19, there are some reduction of income as well that even make people find it hard to increase to afford the property in the city. So I think according to some information on the news, there are some projects that aim to provide more affordable housing units. Like we have a few already on the market, one down the south of Phnom Penh, that is a government one, and the other one on the north side of Phnom Penh. So I believe there will be more of these projects in the future.
Yeah, I think probably the Bores would still be very much in demand, but because of if the developer is a good developer and he gives you very good quality internet connection to the Bore. So even if your Bore is a little bit further out, lower price, maybe there will be good demand from younger families as well. So then it becomes affordable, right? But it is because you are living slightly further away from ground zero.
Right.
Okay. The next question about condominium, commercial building, office building, what is the priority need after COVID-19? Actually, in Singapore, I see that our priority need, because of our aging demographics, our priority need is old folks' homes, retirement facilities, maybe co-living space that is for our retirees, people who are more than 70 years old. They can live in a community that is more like a hostel style of living. We probably need a few more hospitals. I would say that would be my priority need. Cambodia is in a completely different situation. So I think your priority need is probably still very much residential, but yeah, middle market residential probably.
Right.
Affordable housing.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think for Cambodia, residential is still a priority need. As you can see, the impacts from COVID-19 is mainly caused to some extent by the place that people stay, like they are living in a very condensed and crowded location, which can easily cause the spread, the transmission of the virus. So, I mean, even if we have the vaccine, people will probably want to move a bit further out and try to find more open space where they can get a fresh flow of air, I guess.
Yeah. Correct. I think that example is clearest in Hong Kong because every time they find one suspected case in a condominium block, they will try to test the entire condominium block, or they will try to restrict movements in and out of that block. And it is very inconvenient for the residents there. Okay. The next question is about modern real estate being connected to technology. So will the future of buying and selling property using coins? Yes. So just now we were talking about blockchain, and the blockchain then can be creating different types of coins or different types of cryptocurrencies. Yes, so I think many governments have started to look at how the property titles can be put onto the blockchain as well. And so yes, that is definitely a direction, but the technology is already there. We need the governments to allow it to happen. So it is policy that is not so ready today. Another question. Can you help me share the top 5 worst impacted sectors in Singapore? not, I mean, there's no, we only have a few segments of real estate, right? So our hotels were badly impacted. So there's a lot of government support in funding needed for our hotels. We have got real estate that is in for tourists and attractions type of real estate. Those type of attractions all had some, I mean, for example, even our family karaoke outlets, those are all very badly affected, but they happen to be inside the shopping malls. Our offices are next. Our retail malls are also affected quite a bit, and retail malls in Orchard Road, which depends on tourists and foreign visitors, those are affected. But there are things that the government is trying to do to try to support these sectors. If we go into a bit more technical discussion, then in fact, when Singapore had the lockdown and then the flow of the business income is uncertain, it means that the landlords are also uncertain whether they are able to collect rentals from the tenants. And some of the smaller tenants close shop, and they close shop and they owe the landlord money. In those situations, in fact, the landlord has got a bank loan from the bank. When the landlord has got a few tenants that close and are owing money, in fact, the bank loan itself might be difficult for the landlord to pay the bank loan. And so the banks can actually be calling the loan back. But in the middle of last year, who would have the money to pay if you started to call the loans back? And so there's this domino effect that can, if the government policy and the banks and the landlords are not working closely together, you can actually cause a very big downward spiral, and you can actually cause a lot of pain in the financial sector and the real estate sectors. So I think the government and the banks, and they managed to hold it together quite well. And even today, when we cannot have the foreign visitors like 2019, the hotels are still holding up pretty well. Somehow, with some of the government grants and with the valuation and the bank loan, there's a little bit of give and take, I guess. So that's why things are still steady. Otherwise, we've already been in trouble by today. Yeah. From
That should.
Moses, hi Suyong, read your books. Really enjoy your insight. Thank you very much, Moses. Question is, do you think that the property landscape in Singapore has changed permanently with the event of COVID? Has my perspective changed after 2020? Yes, there are many areas that have permanently, we call that, we use the term fracture. Once you have fractured a bone, the bone can be healed back, but it will never heal back to original. There will be a sort of a joint, right? So for example, in the tourism industry, we probably suffered a massive fracture. Many of the people who used to be tour guides or who used to be the ones arranging the tours for the large groups to come to Singapore, the guys who are running the conventions and exhibition center, for the whole year, there wasn't a convention, so they have not practiced their skills. And if the business has reduced, many of them have actually taken on jobs elsewhere. And so many of our tourism people, because they are in the service industry, they can easily take on a course, and now they are in the healthcare services industry. So for example, some of our airlines cabin crew, they have shifted over to become healthcare workers. They are working for hospitals, for example. Then when tourism starts to recover, How do you bring that person outside from who is now working in a hospital? You ask them to join back the tourism sector. So it is difficult. This is what we mean by a fracture. When tourism starts to recover, you then have to retrain a group of younger people, fresh graduates from university, to train them to learn how to handle tourism business again. And so there will be a slowdown. So the few clear-cut examples: conventions and exhibitions, hotels, the airline industry, people who have left will not be so easy for them to come back. And this work from home situation is going to impact Singapore because we have more than 1 million people working in Singapore who are expatriates or who are foreign workers. Out of that, we have maybe about 400,000 foreign workers who are at the top, who are relatively senior. These are people who are getting salaries of more than $4,000 a month. This more senior group of foreigners, can they also work from home? Meaning maybe this gentleman, he is a banker from Jakarta, Indonesia. He can be working in Jakarta instead of living in Singapore to do the same work, right? And so then he doesn't need the residential property in Singapore that he is renting. So in the last 3 years, he was paying $5,000 a month to rent. Now, because of work from home, he is able to do his work from his own home in Jakarta. He doesn't need to be posted to Singapore. So there will be a structural change in demand for some of these little niches within the residential market as well. Okay, I think I've talked too much already.
Yeah, I think you've got to cover a lot of good insights for our audience today. And for our audience who want to learn more or want to follow 𝐶 or you want to get a copy of his book, you can probably go online or you can contact to our team at Pointer. We have some hard copy book available here in Cambodia. And all the money that the book coming from the book, 𝐶 will donate to the people who are infected by COVID-19 in Cambodia. So thank you very much for that. So maybe you want to speak a little bit more about the book.
The book is starting off with talking about the technology and technology impact on real estate, then also together with how COVID is forcing us to change and forcing real estate sectors to change. But there are certain parts of the book which I think may not be so applicable to Cambodia, and that section 2, for example, is talking about Singapore's public housing. We are facing our own challenges in terms of the 99-year leasehold of our public housing segment. So that's in section 2. There is also certain parts will be relevant about retail or about office space, co-working space. That will be relevant. But there is another part, the final chapter, chapter 23, I think, is about the transfer of wealth from one generation transferring to another and having real estate as part of the wealth transfer. I think because Cambodia is still a very young country, but maybe over the next 10 to 20 years, some of the older business owners, they would start to be thinking about how they want to transfer their wealth. So as property agents and some of us are financial planners, together we would have to advise our customers how they have to plan for the transfer of wealth to the next generations. So there are, I think maybe about 70% of this book should be relevant to Cambodia readers, and maybe 30% are very specific to Singapore.
Okay, so thank you very much. So I think we come to an end of our discussion today. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. 𝐶 for your time, and thank you all the audience for spending your Saturday afternoon joining our podcast. We hope to bring you more interesting topic in the future and more discussion that are relevant and that could offer more advice to real estate investment. Yes, any other questions? Oh, we've got one more question, right? Sorry. We seem to have another question from our Facebook audience. Yes, we cross-post this on Facebook, so we couldn't see on Zoom, but we actually have people asking on Facebook. What is the question?
The question from Facebook is asking what suggestion for hotel sector to transform and adapt to uncertainty of COVID.
Okay.
Yes, hotels need to probably overhaul themselves a little bit more. I mean, just now we started talking about how the retail buildings need to reorganize and renovate in order to accept all the delivery of food, for example. But hotels themselves, now the small hotel rooms and staying very near to each other, that type of a situation, the customers in future may be worried about this type of a design. So hotels, if they are undergoing renovation, would probably need to have wider corridors, would also need to have better soundproofing in the rooms. And hotels can also start to do some business where they are offering the hotel rooms during the day, maybe as a business use room, because if let's say my family has got too many people and all of us are working from home, I need to have a quiet room today to make a presentation for 2 hours to my big customer, or I need to present this quarter's financials to my chairman. Perhaps I can rent a hotel room for 2 hours where I get nice soundproof quality, and then I can do my presentation peacefully without getting disturbed. So hotels have to start looking at these additional types of businesses. And the transformation and the upgrading is something that I'm very keen about. That's why I have also signed up and started on my PhD research on the subject of urban regeneration. So thank you for the question on that. Yes, the hotel segment has got to start to renovate themselves to adapt to new businesses.
Right. Okay. Okay, so there's a question on how they can buy the book in Cambodia.
This book on the ebook on Amazon, that would be Kindle. That's what you are seeing on the screen right now. And then there is also the book in another format that's available on goguru.com. I will paste it into the Zoom chat. So that link will take you to goguru.com.sg, so you can buy the electronic book in other formats, non-Kindle formats.
And they can also buy from Pointer team, because we have some stock here delivered from Singapore. So if anyone interested in getting a copy, please drop your number on this chat. Our team will contact back to you. Okay, I think that should be all. No more question, right?
Yep.
All right.
Very much.
Thank you very much, Suyong. I hope to be able to travel soon so that you and I can meet again.
Yes, I want to go back to eat. I want to go back to 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and enjoy a beer.
Okay. All right. So nice. Have a nice weekend to everyone. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
សូមស្វាគមន៍មកកាន់ក្រុមហ៊ុនអចលនទ្រព្យ Pointer តើលោកអ្នកចង់បង្កើនប្រាក់ចំណូលក្នុងវិស័យអចលនទ្រព្យដែរឬទេ កុំបារម្ភក្រុមការងាររបស់យើងនឹងជួយលោកអ្នក Pointer មានសេវាប្រឹក្សាធ្វើទីផ្សារលក់គម្រោងខុនដូនិងបូរីសេវាប្រឹក្សាទិញលក់និងជួលអចលនទ្រព្យកម្មវិធីបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលនិងសហការភ្នាក់ងារអចលនទ្រព្យ